there is now new audio of interviews from the investigation into the cops who murdered Brianna Taylor in her own home using a no-knock warrant. I want to remind everyone that she was shot and killed. There were no drugs found in the home, and no one has been criminally charged in this case. But there's an ongoing investigation, and what you're about to hear shows you just how little faith we should have in the investigation, because the investigator seems to be minimizing what the cops did here. So let's take a look, or let's take a listen to the first piece of audio.
So in the pre-operational briefing, you guys just considered this location as, and I've heard this a couple times throughout this investigation, as a soft target.
Right. Based
on the information that the lead had concerning the entire investigation.
Correct.
The organization of the drug trafficking ring. So that's what made that's what kind of made you all come up with the original, hey, we're just going to try to get her to the door, the most passive way to serve the warrant.
So the person that you heard was the investigator interviewing Mattingly, right? So when you heard the statement about it being the most passive way of entering the home, that wasn't the cop who said that. That was the investigator interviewing the cop and investigating the cop, essentially helping him out and framing this as if the way they entered Brianna Taylor's home was passive. NBC News reported that in the interview with Louisville Police Sergeant Jonathan Mattingly, who led the late night raid in March, the investigator questioning Mattingly describes a raid involving at least 7 officers and a battering ram as the most passive way in, and says Mattingly rightfully returned fire after Taylor's boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, fired a shot. And keep in mind, Kenneth Walker, the boyfriend, had a licensed gun. You have these plainclothes cops using a battering ram to enter the home. He was terrified, didn't know who they were, and so he fired a warning shot. And they opened fire, and they fired so many times that Brianna Taylor was shot 8 times and died as a result. And just to give you a sense of what this horrible investigator thinks is passive, here is the 911 call by Kenneth Walker after Brianna Taylor was murdered.
I don't know what's happening. Somebody kicked in the door and shot my girlfriend.
Where was she shot at?
I don't know. She's on the grill right now. I don't know. Help! Oh my God! Yes, help!
What's your name, sir?
Oh, my name is Kenneth Walker.
You said Kenneth?
Help!
So, Cenk, just a little more context, so you guys, everyone knows how this investigation, started. It turns out that the timing of the recorded interviews by the Louisville Metro Police Department's Public Integrity Unit also raises questions about the approach police took to interviewing crucial eyewitnesses. Sergeant Mattingly's interview occurred nearly 2 weeks after Taylor's death with a lawyer present. Now, Walker, the boyfriend, was interviewed just hours after the shooting. He waived his rights to an attorney and emotionally recalled the chaotic night, saying he shot once at what he believed was an intruder before officers opened fire. Days later, the 27-year-old was indicted for attempted murder of a police officer and assault. Luckily, prosecutors dropped those charges later.
This is a textbook case of why local police and prosecutors should not investigate local police. These guys are all friends, and it is screamingly obvious in everything they did. Walker gets interviewed immediately, gets railroaded into being charged with homicide. If there was not press attention to this case, Walker, who was 100% right, the boyfriend, would be in prison for the rest of his life. I guarantee it. In fact, I'm gonna give you details that shows you that, okay? And all the cops would have been completely exonerated. There would have been no issue at all. Nobody would have been fired. Thank God there was press attention to it. In this case, they have a local sergeant, theoretically in an internal affairs kind of unit, Amanda Seal, go and talk to Walker. And she says, encourages him to sign away his Miranda rights and says, it would be good for you to sign this, and then we can get your statement, and then we can leave you alone. No, the whole time she's working to prosecute him, not the cops she's supposed to be investigating. She then takes what he says and testifies in front of the grand jury, gets him charged. This entire time, she never even talked to the cops she's theoretically investigating. Only a week later does she finally go, and she doesn't even do the interview. She's part of the interview process for the cop who's treated like royalty. The cops who did the killings, who actually killed a person, right? Walker's interviewed immediately. When he's totally traumatized, they 100% lie to him so that they could railroad him. The cop does not get interviewed until 2 weeks later with his attorney and with a so-called investigator who's actually working in his defense. Throughout the leading, you heard a piece of that there. But if you listen to the whole thing, he's leading him the entire time. He even says things like, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but that was an awfully dangerous situation, wasn't it? He later says like, oh my God, you're an experienced police officer for 20 years. I mean, this was a very hard situation for you, right? No, the whole thing is rigged by the local guys to make sure that no cop is ever held responsible.
This no-knock warrant happened at 12:40 a.m. You have plainclothes cops entering this home in a vicious way, using a battering ram, and there were no drugs, nothing in the house. And by the way, the judge who approved the no-knock warrant did so in part because they claimed that the post office had said that suspicious packages were being delivered to Brianna Taylor that probably contained drugs that were being trafficked. Guess what? An investigation was done, and a post office inspector later told local news that there were no packages of interest sent there. What's happening with this police department is criminal, period. It's criminal, They lied about the post office. They lied to get that no-knock warrant. They killed an innocent human being.
One of the sergeants there was fired, not charged, no. Why was he fired? Because he wantonly and quote blindly fired into the apartment, including bullets that went through the apartment into the next apartment where there was a pregnant mother. Who cares? Just shoot them all. Who cares? We lied about the warrant. We lied that it was that we came in. By the way, it was a soft target. We came in the least obtrusive way. Every part of this cop story is a lie.